Marcus and Malcolm Reed stopped at a gas station, expecting nothing more than a quick fuel stop. They had no idea that within minutes, several police officers would surround their car. The brothers stayed calm and tried to understand what was happening. Then the senior officer ordered them away from a vehicle. The brothers immediately followed the officer's instructions. Marcus asked what the problem was, but nobody gave him a clear answer. Malcolm kept his voice calm and told the officers they were willing to cooperate. Still, the situation continued to escalate. Marcus couldn't understand why they were being treated like suspects. They had done nothing unusual and had simply stopped for gas. The officer kept asking questions while refusing to explain the original complaint. Then one officer mentioned that the brothers supposedly matched the description. The description was vague, but the officers seemed convinced they had found the right people. Marcus repeatedly asked whether they could see the identification of the person who reported them. No answer came. Instead, the brothers were told to place their hands where the officers could see them. The brothers did exactly what they were told. They kept their hands visible and avoided making sudden movements. But the officers continued treating the situation as if they were dealing with dangerous suspects. What happened next would later become the most important part of the entire case. Malcolm calmly told the officer that they were federal employees traveling together. The officer appeared unconvinced. He asked them what agency they worked for and demanded identification. Marcus simply replied, "We can show you our credentials." Marcus carefully reached for his identification after asking permission. The officer watched closely as he pulled out a credential wallet. For the first time, the officer's expression changed. He stared at the badge inside as though he couldn't believe what he was seeing. The badge identified Marcus as a federal agent. Suddenly, the entire atmosphere around the gas pumps changed. The senior officer looked at Malcolm and asked if he was with the same agency. Malcolm reached for his own credentials. Malcolm's credentials confirmed exactly what his brother had said. The two men weren't criminals pretending to be federal agents. They were highly trained federal officers traveling together on official business. The senior officer immediately realized how serious the situation had become. The senior officer stepped away and made a quick phone call. He had just learned that the two men in front of him were federal agents. But that wasn't even the biggest surprise waiting for the officers, because someone else was about to arrive, and the entire situation was about to reach another level. The officers suddenly became much more careful with every word they said. Marcus and Malcolm didn't argue or demand an apology. They simply waited while the senior officer contacted his supervisor. Within minutes, the response at the gas station was completely different. Another official vehicle pulled into the station. The senior officer walked toward it with a completely different expression than before. Someone important had clearly been contacted. The brothers still had no idea how high this situation was about to go. The arriving official greeted Marcus and Malcolm by name. That immediately confirmed that their credentials were legitimate. The local officers exchanged nervous looks. What had started as a routine traffic-style encounter was now becoming a serious federal matter. The senior officer explained why the twins had been stopped. The federal official listened without interrupting him. Then he asked one simple question. "Did you verify their identities before escalating this encounter?" The officer didn't immediately have an answer. The federal official asked the twins to explain what happened from the beginning. Marcus calmly described the stop without exaggerating anything. Malcolm added the details about the questions and identification request. They let the facts speak for themselves. The federal official verified their credentials through the proper channels. Everything checked out. Marcus and Malcolm were exactly who they said they were. The senior officer now understood that the original assumptions had been completely wrong. The senior officer finally approached the brothers again. His tone was completely different from earlier. He acknowledged that the situation had been handled incorrectly and apologized. But Marcus told him that an apology wasn't the only thing that mattered anymore. Marcus explained that their concern wasn't about being embarrassed at a gas station. It was about how quickly assumptions had turned into an aggressive encounter. Malcolm agreed and asked that the incident be properly documented. The officer said he understood. The emergency lights were finally switched off. The gas station returned to its normal rhythm as customers continued filling their cars. But everyone who had witnessed the encounter knew something unusual had just happened. The two men who had been treated like suspects were actually federal agents. Marcus and Malcolm got back into their car and prepared to leave. But before they drove away, the federal official received one more phone call. His expression changed immediately after hearing the news. The twins had no idea that the next revelation involved a federal judge.